So the next head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles will either be Deuce Staley, Tom Coughlin, Doug Pederson, Ben McAdoo, or Pat Shurmur. I couldn't have handpicked a worse set of candidates. Jeremy Burton and Mike Owens are both here. I'm Adrian Fedque. So, do any of you guys own a gun?
No, I don't have a gun, but I think that Jeremy might have a bat under his bed.
Yeah, I can whack you over the head if you're really that depressed about this coaching search, Adrian.
Yeah, well, I might need it. I mean, you're 6'4", so one brisk swing of the bat might do the job. Oh boy. All right, so yeah, let's start. Candidates. Well, let's just go quick around the table. Who's the guy? Who's the guy you want?
Yeah, well, the guy that I wanted is now the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So, yeah, the Eagles were the first team to get an interview with Adam Gase. 8-hour interview, seemed like everything was positive. There was reports out there that the Eagles then had scheduled a second interview with them during the weekend, and over the next day or two after that interview, everything kind of fell apart, and Gase ended up meeting with the Dolphins, and then there was reports that there was no second interview with the Eagles and Gase, and Gase ended up taking the Dolphins job, and the reports out there indicate that the reason that Gase didn't come here is because Howie Roseman was the roadblock. And Howie Roseman wouldn't let Gase have full control of the roster, which he got in Miami. So, my guy is off the list. And after that, I was really looking at, maybe Sean McDermott or Hugh Jackson. And I really didn't think that I was going to have to go further than that. But it appears that we have to at this point. So, I'm going to have to say that at this point, my guy is probably going to be Pederson because he's the best choice with what's available.
Adam Gase was the bright, shiny toy available in this offseason. And, I just had a feeling that in 2013, Chip Kelly was the bright, shiny toy in the head coaching search, and that didn't work out. So I just had a feeling that Jeff Lurie was going to take the more conservative route. He loves his boy Andy Reid. He's doing a great job in KC. And who's his right-hand man? Doug Pederson. We can talk later about Andy Reid's, coaching tree and all that nonsense. But, Pederson is, in my opinion, the best available of this crop you mentioned. I had Gase as my number one guy. I really like Hugh Jackson and McDermott as well. But for some reason, they're just not on the Eagles' radar. So we're left with Pederson. And, I might be in the minority here amongst Eagles fans, but I think he will do a pretty decent job if we bring him in.
You're not only in the minority. You're the only one. You're the only one. You're on your own little island, bud. Oh, man. So it just boggles my mind. Sean McDermott, Hugh Jackson, Matt Patricia. You're not even going to interview Paul Gunther. There's so many better candidates out there, at least in my opinion, and we're going to settle for Dougie Fresh. It's terrible. It's awful. I need to know why he's the top guy. Well, at least it appears that he is. I don't know if he likes holiday parties a lot. He must make a mean nacho dip. Maybe his wife makes a great peanut butter cheesecake. I have no idea. But he's the guy right now, and I've accepted him because he's the best one on the list. Because I don't want Tom Coughlin. He's going to be yelling at everyone to get off his lawn. Then who else? Ben McAdoo? You want Ben McAdoo? Ew. Deuce Staley? He's not ready to be head coach. And then who's the other? Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur was my worst case scenario, and he's probably second on that list.
Yeah, well, Big Andy has been in the ear of the Eagles and been in the ear of Mr. Lurie. And, giving him all these great facts about Pederson and how Pederson is ready to step up and be a head coach. And, well, Lori and Reed are still good friends, and so Lori is listening to Andy Reid at this point, and from the reports, it seems like Pederson impressed during his interview with the Eagles. So all signs are pointing towards Pederson. And if it's not Pederson, the second guy on the list would probably be Shermer to be elevated to head coach. So I think that's at the point we're at here, because the Eagles don't have any more interviews lined up. They're at the owners' meetings right now, and it seems like after the owners' meetings, they're going to regroup here and maybe make a decision. But if it is Pederson, we're going to have to wait until the Chiefs are eliminated from the playoffs.
Or the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl is when we might get him. One of the bigger reasons I think why we didn't get Gase and why we'll probably work with Pederson is Pederson's ability to work with Howie Roseman as a GM. That was one of the big things with Gase. He wanted control of the roster, and Roseman wouldn't let that up. He just got his control back. He's not going to let it up. And I understand why Lori would be hesitant to give a new guy, a new head coach, full control because of what he did with Chip after just 2 years of experience and how he kind of shit the bed with his GM duties. So, I think Pederson has done a admirable job as offensive coordinator with Andy. They're top 10 in points in offense. They can run the ball. They've had a successful year. They went 11-5. They're in the midst of an 11-game winning streak. Go Chiefs.
Oh. All right. Well, I'm going to try and stop being negative because I did really look into this, and I am trying to like this hire. It hasn't happened, but it's going to happen. We just know it's going to happen. So we're going to talk about the positives of Doug Pederson right now. And, we'll start with Jeremy here because he's the one that wants him. So go ahead, man, and then we'll all each have our say.
All right, well, positives with Pederson. I think he can work well with players, and I've seen him have a good rapport with Alex Smith. He's there warming up with them pregame, talking to him a lot, relating to the players. That was big on Lori's list of things that he wants in a head coach. I really like that he has played quarterback, the most important position in the NFL. He's played in this league. He's played under a number of good coaches, great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches, Don Shula when he was in Miami, obviously Mike Holmgren, and he's he's been around the block. But if you weren't a great player, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a bad coach. I think he worked with Brett Favre. I mean, the list goes on with people he worked with that were very good. And then you got the Reid coaching tree. I think Pederson has learned a number of different ways to coach an offense. As long as he brings in the right D coordinator, I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah, I mean, those are all the positives too that I would say about Pederson. I mean, this is just one of those things where I'm really not that high on Pederson, but I don't know either. I mean, you never know with these coordinators that become a head coach. I mean, anything is possible, so I really can't bash the guy yet until he is actually a coach in the NFL. So Jeremy brings up some great points about Pederson and the positives. Everyone has their different feelings about a potential head coach, and he's just one of those guys that I'm very lukewarm on. I mean, if it happens, it happens, and I love the Eagles, so I'll cheer for him to do good. But I just I don't know. Because Pederson, when this all happened, he was not even like top 5 on my list. So the fact that he could possibly be the head coach is kind of scary. And I'll bring up this point now, where I think this is where I think the Eagles are making a tremendous mistake. I think with the Eagles, all of a sudden after this whole Chip Kelly thing, now they're all of a sudden focused on getting this coach that relates to the players really well. I think that's a horrible mistake because I think they're focusing way too much on that, and they're putting way too much attention on that detail, because it's not all about relating to players. I mean, this is a National Football League. You need to be able to know how to coach too, and you could have the guy who mingles with the players, great. But if your team is losing, it's not going to matter at all, because that locker room will turn ugly in a second. So you have to win in this league. So it's not all about this play relationship thing, which the Eagles are really putting a lot of emphasis on.
No, I completely agree with you, Mike. I think there has been an overemphasis of that here. I want a head football coach. I don't want a guy that's going to play patty cake with his players. There's a lot of assholes out there that make good head coaches. You got Chuck Noll. You've got Jim Harbaugh. You got Bill Belichick. All these guys are great head coaches. And, at the end of the day, they're not supposed to be your friend. They're head coaches for a reason. But I'll get to my positives now on Doug Pederson. I'll just start off by saying this before I get to my positives. I think he's a dingleberry. I don't think he's going to be good, but I'll say this about him. Jeremy brought it up with the lineage. I mean, he was a journeyman quarterback, so he learned from a lot of different head coaches. You got Shula, and Shula in Miami had a vertical passing game, very disciplined team there. You learned from Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren, West Coast offense. Andy Reid, West Coast offense, a little bit different. And then he also played with Cleveland. I forget who the coach was there. It was some no-name, not any good there. And then he went back to Green Bay, and you had Sherman. Sherman, again, West Coast offense, but a little bit more running there. If you remember, they had Amon Green. Amon Green ran for over 1,800 yards one season. So there's that. The other things you can look at, the Andy Reid coaching tree, because when you go from Andy Reid to Mike Holmgren, and then from Mike Holmgren, you go to Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh, one of the greatest coaches of all time. And another positive you can look at for Dougie, he's got more responsibilities this year. So Andy's, let him call some plays now. He does take care of the 2-minute situation. As we know, Andy's not really great in that aspect, doesn't know how to use his timeouts. So he does control that. He's part of the game planning during the week. As we know, Andy is very, very, very meticulous in terms of his game planning. One of the best scripters in the league. When you talk about those first 15 plays, well, Andy's right up there with the best of them. So you can only hope that he kind of brings all that to Philly.
Another thing you missed about where he played is he played for Philadelphia. You didn't mention that.
No, I said he was under Andy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But that's another thing. He knows how to play here. He knows the fans. That was one of the big things.
Yeah. So yeah, he's going to be a yes man to Howie and all that stuff. But yeah, go ahead, Mike. Any other thoughts?
Yeah. No. I mean, I think we covered Pederson pretty well there. So, I mean, if he's a guy, we just have to see what happens. Like I said, you never know with these guys until they become a head coach. So he could very well turn out to be a great head coach, but we don't know. Like Andy Reid, he was very, little known until he became a great head coach. So Pederson could do the same thing. Yeah, and Gase could end up turning into a flounder and do a horrible job as a head coach. You just don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, I mean, it's a total gamble. These are all first-time head coaches that were on the top of our list. Gase, McDermott, they're all would-be first-time head coaches. So you really don't know. You can just go by the resume they had, who they've worked with, how that team is done, and you just got to hope for the best. But I mean, we brought up a lot of the positives with Pederson. The only negative I see is, like Adrian said, he looks like a dingleberry. But if he can coach, though, I don't care what he looks like. I don't know. I have I loved Andy Reid when he was here. Yeah, he did an amazing job. Fell just short of a title, and then he, had his stay go maybe a year or two too long. But his time was done here. And I wish the big guy the best. And I just think he can follow in Andy's footsteps, be the needle in the haystack of this year. No one else is really interviewing him. No one else interviewed Andy Reid, I don't believe, in '99. I think Jeff is just comfortable with it, and I just have a strong feeling that that's going to happen. I think he'll do a good job.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, well, my thing is it's not just because he looks stupid. I mean, Adam Gase looks like Vladimir Putin, and as a Ukrainian, I hate that. But when I hear him talk and just listen to him, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. And it's tough for me to get behind him. I think a lot of it has to do with also Gase too, because we kind of got teased. Thinking that he was going to come here. They said he was going to have a second interview, and then all of a sudden Ruben Frank has the report out there that says he's not going to be scheduled for a second interview. Then he goes to Miami, and he gets the job there. So it really left that bitter taste in your mouth. And you go from Adam Gase to Doug Pederson. So it's a very drastic fall. At least on paper it looks like that. So the other point I want to get to, again, we're going to talk about the positives of Pederson. You can either see through the bullshit or not, our viewers, whether or not you want to believe it or not. So we'll say this. The Kansas City offense, a lot of the popular tweets out there on Twitter, at least a lot of the things that people like to talk about, is that Kansas City's total offense has been, I believe it's 25th, 25th, and 21st the last 3 years. But well, the stats aren't as bad as they indicate. You guys want to comment on the offense?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, all right. Yeah, well, the numbers are somewhat skewed in how they run their offense. They're run heavy. They actually start off with a lot of short fields with their defense and getting great turnovers. They're way up there in turnover differential. They slow down. They're not up tempo like Chip Kelly. They're the exact opposite. They like I said, they run the ball a lot. And Alex Smith doesn't light the world on fire. He averages maybe 200 passing yards a game, but sometimes that's all you need if you're well balanced in a run pass ratio. And manage the clock well. Their offense, obviously they won 11 straight games now and are streaking into Foxborough. So I think their offensive numbers are somewhat skewed. They have been a successful offense.
Yeah, no, Jeremy brings up some great points, and a lot of times people look at stats too much, and like Jeremy was saying, they definitely can get skewed. And when you have Alex Smith as your quarterback, he's not going to light the world on fire, so their offense isn't going to put up that many yards. And really, it's the running attack that they use in Kansas City. But the main reason why the Chiefs win is because of their defense.
Yeah, the biggest reason why their the total offense stats are skewed, they run the second fewest plays per game in the league at 59.8. They don't run a lot of plays. A lot of it has to do with the fact that they have a high completion percentage with Alex Smith. He's tied for 9th in completion percentage in the NFL. You got a lot of short fields because their plus 14 turnover difference is second in the NFL. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're 9th in points per drive at 2.05. So there's also that there working for you. So it's. I remember a game last year that I covered. Might have been last year, might have been 2 years ago. They played Denver, and I believe in the first half, they only possessed the ball like 3 times. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were keeping the ball for large amounts of time. They had a drive that went like 10-plus minutes. And that's kind of been what they've been this year. They keep the ball. They pick up first downs. You know about Andy Reid's short to intermediate passing game. So they just kind of slowly matriculate their way down the field. They're very precise. They run the ball really well, which is really incredible considering that Jamal Charles got hurt. So they're playing with Sharkandrick West. And, God, who's where? What's his first name? I don't even know his first name.
Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware.
No, I was blanking. I couldn't even name you the guy. So they're very successful, with their precision offensive attack. I actually really like their offense. And, on paper it doesn't look like it's, that great, but I think it's been very successful, in terms of what they need to do to win.
Yeah, I think what they have done with the running game with got unknowns like Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware this year. I kind of get excited at what Doug might be able to do with DeMarco Murray and Ryan Matthews and Darren Sproles. I mean, we have a good running back stable. While our receivers are a little iffy, but Nelly's coming into her second year, and Jordan Matthews is another year in. Riley Cooper will be cut, and so will Josh Hufflepuff. And I think the offense would do well under Doug, as long as you have an admirable quarterback and it's not Sanchez. Whether we keep Bradford or not. I think Bradford would do great in Doug's offense. I think he would know how to use him. I think he would relate to him well. But that remains to be seen whether Bradford wants to stay here, whether Doug being here would, make Bradford happy, and then we got to pay him. So, that's another topic maybe we can talk about.
Yeah, that'll be later in the show. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you bring in Pederson, obviously him being a former quarterback, and, with our situation at quarterback, that's definitely a positive, because he would be able to, work with Bradford, or he would able to move on and draft a quarterback of his own and work with him. So having Pederson be a former quarterback in this league, it definitely helps in that fact with the quarterback position.
Yeah. I guess we'll just talk about Bradford now then. No, we'll wait for later, because there's still more we got to talk about Pederson. So I wanted to bring up the Reid coaching tree now. Because it's been a lot of hit or miss. So we don't really know what we're going to get with Pederson. You could either get a John Harbaugh or a Ron Rivera, or we might get a Brad Childress, Leslie Frazier, Steve Spagnuolo. So, who knows?
There's definitely a lot of successful Andy Reid coordinators that moved on. Obviously, John Harbaugh is the best name that comes up. Great special teams coordinator with the Eagles for a number of years, and obviously he's won the Super Bowl with the Ravens. Obviously, Ron Rivera and Sean McDermott are working together. They've put together one of the best defenses in the league and best record in the league, and see what they can do this weekend. They're 15-1. And then, like any coaches, it's hit or miss. You're going to have your duds. Not everyone's going to work out, but the fact that he has had great success with some of his coordinators moving on, I think that bodes well, and I think Pederson could be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid is pretty much like a great big apple tree, and you go to that apple tree, and so far you've had a pretty good success rate of picking good apples, but there is always going to be that bad apple here and there. So if the Pederson apple falls from this Andy Reid coaching tree, we can just hope that it's a good apple, and we just got to hope that it's not a bad apple with worms in it and have it be defective. So, getting the good apple is key, a nice red apple. We don't want any, brown stuff on it or anything like that. So, hopefully, Reid has done a good job of grooming Pederson and getting him ready for this head coaching job.
Oh, man, you're going to make me want an apple now once we finish the show.
I hope it's a Honey Crisp. Doug Pederson will be a Honey Crisp apple, the big, crunchy, juicy, delicious ones. Where'd
Uh,
Adrian?
it,
Do you see Adrian?
it looks like Adrian is frozen in time.
Adrian's frozen in time. Our host is gone.
Yeah.
What's our next topic, Mike?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that we covered Pederson pretty well. I guess we can just, talk about the other possible candidates for the job. And I think that realistically, if it's not Pederson, you're probably looking at, Shermer being the guy. And, with Shermer, I think, the good thing is he's been here for some time now, so he understands the city and all that. And I don't think it would necessarily be the worst thing. I mean, he's got plenty of experience with Bradford, so obviously Bradford would stay here. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Shermer, man. I mean, that I'm along the lines with Adrian. That's kind of one of my doomsday scenarios. But if it has to be, I mean, you know, you saw in the last game, Bradford was able to make a couple adjustments pre-play, which is something that we didn't do under Chip. Obviously, he's very familiar with Shermer. He would definitely stay. It wouldn't be a big a change in offense. And, I mean, I guess he's number 2 on the list. I think Coughlin's too old. I don't really want him. I don't want him to groom somebody that he brings in. Yeah, yeah. Right now, it'd be Pederson 1, Shermer 2. So I mean, Shermer he was 9-23 as a head coach, but that was with the Brownies. So we know how their franchise is.
It looks like he's came back. He's alive again.
So hold on. So what just happened? Because I was talking for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I got cut off, and you guys were frozen. So were you guys?
No, you were frozen.
Oh, so you guys?
Yeah, we were here.
You guys didn't even hear me when I was talking. I was talking about Andy Reid for like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
No, I just saw Black Bitter Bird scream.
Ah, so when I started talking about 1999 and our coaching search, okay, so I'll bring it up now. We'll talk about it now.
Nothing.
Okay, so 1999, during our head coaching search, obviously Ray Rhodes got canned, and in 1999, our top guy that we wanted was Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren spurned us. He didn't want to come here. He went to Seattle. The next 2 guys that we really wanted, we had Jim Haslett, and we had Andy Reid. Andy Reid, obviously the quarterback's coach of Green Bay. Jim Haslett didn't want to come here. So we settled for Andy. He became the first position coach to get a head coaching job in 10 years. The last one was Art Shell in 1989 with Oakland. So we really lucked out with Andy. He was a needle in a haystack, and right now we're trying to, do the same thing with him. Some other candidates that year, we had Willie Shaw and Dom Capers. So those guys didn't work out. Obviously, Andy was the best of the bunch.
Yeah. So it could be a similar situation now where it ends up that Pederson ends up being that Andy Reid type of guy.
I think that's Jeff Lurie's mindset, and I mean, I don't see any other option. Me and Mike, where you were going, we're just talking a little bit about the other candidates in this year, and Shermer probably being the next best, just with the familiarity with the offense. He's been here for a couple years, and with Bradford. So, I mean, if it's between them 2, I mean, obviously I'll take Doug, but hopefully he's the needle in the haystack like Andy. I mean, I know in my gut feeling like that Jeff wants Andy Reid 2.0 and Doug Peterson's it. So he's comfortable with that.
Yeah, and other tidbits on Andy. 40 years old. He was the second youngest coach in the NFL behind Oakland's John Gruden. John Gruden was 35 at the time. And let's see. I just, from reading what I read, from the initial hiring of him, they were very, very impressed with his personality and his upbeat attitude and his positivity. And if you know Andy Reid, he carries a 6-inch thick binder with him. about how to build a winning team. Very meticulous in preparation. Kind of went with that. Talked about that earlier. Very detail-oriented. And when you hear that immediately reminds me of Bill Walsh. So hopefully Doug brings some of those tendencies here to Philly.
Yeah, that's really all we can hope for.
By the way,
I know.
Power again because we got this wicked storm going through right now. That's what happened. We lost power for like a minute. That's why I went off.
There's a lot of wind. Well, one of the things I heard about the Reed interview back in '99 is Adrian mentioned his binder. He called it the Bible. I mean, he brought that in and just really wowed Jeffrey Lurie, and he just won him he won the job at the interview. And hopefully, I know Andy Reid has taught Doug well. He's a smart guy. I'm sure Doug is a smart guy, and he grasps all that. And bring him on, Dougie fresh. Do the Dougie, however you do that.
Don't do the Dougie. Please don't do the Dougie. Please don't do the Dougie. Oh boy, save that for when you're on the dance floor when you're like 6 beers deep. No, you need more than 6 beers, like 12 beers. Oh man. All right. Well, this is a topic we discussed just a little bit earlier. Let's talk about Bradford now, and would he be a fit for Doug Pederson? And I think he absolutely would be, because if you look at Bradford, there's a lot of similarities between Bradford and Smith. Two very smart guys, two guys that like to throw the short to intermediate stuff. Yeah, sure, they'll take their shots down the field, but they're all about moving the chains, being precise and all that stuff, and very accurate on those short throws and putting the ball on the proper shoulder. And I think there's a lot of similarities between Smith and Bradford.
Yeah, no, I mean, if Pederson's a guy, you brought up those great points there. I think that's why Pederson would probably try to keep Bradford. And if that was the case, there's probably a good chance that Shermer would stay on as the offensive coordinator. I kind of think that Shermer and Bradford are really linked at this point. So wouldn't it be such a bad case there? If Bradford stays here, obviously the whole thing is going to be what kind of contract he gets.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think it would be a great fit, especially if we keep Shermer here. He's worked with him for years. It's going to come down to Bradford and the money and what Bradford wants. Does Bradford really like Philadelphia? Not really. I think he doesn't hate it, but there's other cities that he would rather be in. Kind of depends. I think Houston is a very attractive job for Bradford. He's about an hour plane ride away from his hometown in Oklahoma. They have a built-to-win team around him. Great top 3 wide receiver in the league, arguably, in DeAndre Hopkins. Great defense. All Houston needs is a quarterback. Bill O'Brien's done a good job with them and their rotation of very mediocre quarterbacks this year. So is he going to draft Hackenberg? I don't know if he's going to reach for him or how that's going to work out, but I can see Bradford sneaking off to Houston, and that would be that would be bad for the Eagles because we would be left with Sanchez and a dud to come in and compete with him or whoever we draft. And unless we go trade up for Goff, which would be tough to do, I don't see a good scenario at the quarterback situation next year for the Eagles if Bradford leaves.
I'll give you not out of the box scenario here. How about we suck for a year? How about we do start Sanchez for a year? How about we go 3-13 so we can have the number 1 overall pick and draft Deshaun Watson? How about that? Because he was amazing last night.
I'll take him.
Oh.
He reminds me of a darker Russell Wilson.
Darker. I wonder if he drinks any of that holy water that Russell drinks. Clearly it works for him because Blair Walsh just hooked the shit out of a 27-yard field goal, the worst field goal I've ever seen in my life.
Ever.
Ever.
Wow.
Ever. God, they had that, they had that happen to them. You had the miracle against Green Bay last year. There's something in the water in Seattle.
Yeah, those Seahawks, man, they always find a way to get some sort of luck. So, oh boy, yeah. But going back to the Watson point, I mean, geez, the Eagles they would really be taking a page out of the Sixers playbook if they did that. That would be another team tanking here in Philadelphia. And they would really have to tank and get that number 1 pick to get Watson. But yeah, Watson's unbelievable. So it's gonna be interesting to see how high the Eagles go in the rounds for a quarterback this season, because I think that's gonna tell you a lot what they're gonna do next year. So we'll see. I mean, I like Goff, but I think that he could go too early for the Eagles to go up and get him. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, if Bradford's not here, and if I don't know if I could take a whole year of Sanchez starting at quarterback. I just don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I don't think I can. But if we had a whole year of Sanchez, well, he would get hurt at some point. We wouldn't have, and then whoever Thad Lewis or whoever we want to have compete with him would come in. But yeah, you can chalk us up for a 4-12 season if Sanchez is our starting quarterback. And at least in the NFL, you have the worst record, you get the number 1 pick. And the Sixers will have the worst record and only have a 25% chance of that number 1 pick. I hate the NBA. It's totally rigged. They're going to give the Lakers the first pick. That's another story. That's annoying. But no, Watson, man, he was unbelievable last night. He took the epitome of taking a team on your shoulders, and reminded me of like what McNabb used to do when he was young, and he would just take over games, and it was exciting to watch. And unfortunately, they fell to the cocky Nick Saban, who won the 4th title with Alabama in the last 7 years, and he's one of the best college coaches of all time. But Watson would be a dream scenario next year for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the funny thing though on Twitter is like the conversation is like, well, if they don't re-sign Bradford, then they're gonna have Mark Sanchez as their starting quarterback, and I'm just like, okay, I'll take Sanchez for a year, tank and take Watson, and there's another good quarterback next year too that might come out. His name is Luke Falk out of Washington State. These two guys are a lot better than Paxton Lynch and Jared Goff. So that's just a quick point there. I could see Bradford coming back though if Pat Shurmur is retained as the offensive coordinator, because one of the things that Bradford said when Chip got fired, he was very angry that Chip got fired, and a lot of the reasoning there was because he doesn't want to learn a new offense again. He's learned a new offense like every year in his career, and he didn't want to go through that again. So if Shurmur is retained, he may choose Philly over Houston. Although Houston, man, that's a pretty ideal situation there for him.
Yeah, I mean, Houston definitely be enticing for Bradford, but I think if Shurmur is here, I think that Bradford stays here. Those guys are pretty much tied at the hip at this point.
Yeah, like I said, it all comes down to Bradford, but and what he wants definitely will help keeping Shurmur here. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we're pretty much going to wrap things up here. I wanted to make this a half an hour. We got to 40 minutes, so not too bad. I guess we'll just do quick final thoughts, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so I guess my final thoughts. I'm gonna give a quick summary here of where I think the Eagles totally messed this whole situation up and went completely wrong. And it all started back when there was a power struggle between Chip Kelly and Howie Roseman. And I think that's where it all started, because in that situation, they had to fire one of those guys. It was either going to be Chip or Howie, but one of them had to leave. And by keeping both guys and demoting Howie, it set up this bizarre situation that we're in right now, because Howie Roseman pretty much went from, being an equipment manager to now having a ton of say in this organization and pretty much being back into his general manager role and having a key say in who our next head coach is. And it's just a shame, because that whole power struggle was really the downfall, because then they gave Chip Kelly all the power in the world. Chip Kelly went out and made all these roster changes that he wasn't ready to do, because he wasn't ready to be a general manager and a coach in the National Football League, and he really set us back. And then what happened is, so then when they decide to fire Chip, now you really put yourself in a tough situation, because you have to go out and you got to get the best guy out there on the job market as your head coach, and they failed to do that. So now we're stuck talking about maybe getting a guy like Doug Pederson as the head coach, which is not going to be a fan favorite here in Philadelphia. And now Pederson has to come in, whoever the new coach is that comes in, they have to fix this mess that Chip Kelly created as the general manager. So it's just an absolute mess. I mean, that's all I can say. It's a mess that was created by Lurie.
And my fears are coming true. It's terrible.
Mike really nailed it all there. I totally agree. I mean, I don't like Howie Roseman even a little bit. He had his moments in the 2012 draft. You think of Fletcher Cox, Michael Kendricks, Benny Logan, and Zach Ertz. Then you have the 2011 draft. You think Daniel Watkins, Jaquan Jarrett, all these bums, first and second round picks here. The power struggle thing was huge, and that's what set off this catastrophe of what happened between last offseason and now. But I'm just hoping that Howie Roseman really comes out and wants to prove himself and have a really good draft and work well with the next head coach and their little collaborative effort with Donahoe and whatever, and whoever the coach is going to be. You just got to hope. We like to try and hold faith and be positive here, but the Eagles are a mess right now, and we got to clean it up. And hopefully it starts with the right hire. And I think out of the options that Doug Pederson is the best fit. And go Chiefs.
Oh, boy. All right. I'll just say this. We're going to have to give him at least 2 years. So I will try and remain patient. Well, actually, I will be patient, and I will give it a chance, despite the fact that I don't like him. I don't think he's going to be a good coach. I think he's a dingleberry. But I will give him a chance, and we'll see how it goes. And the thing that really is pissing me off on Twitter, people are saying that if Pederson becomes head coach, they will stop being an Eagles fan. Well, if you're like that, then you were never an Eagles fan to begin with. The Eagles, I mean, that's our team, all right? The wings on the helmet are always going to be greater than players and coaches. It's all about the team. It's our team. So stop complaining. It's our team. If you want to go and be a Patriots fan, go ahead. I'm not going to miss you. So there's that.
Oh yeah, and one other quick point on Lurie. I just thought about this, which is kind of ironic, but think about this for a second. So Lurie, when he split up with his ex-wife, do you think that his ex-wife left the organization? No, his ex-wife is still a member of the Philadelphia Eagles organization, which is bizarre. How is she even still in the organization? I don't know. And now he carries around this Asian side piece. and then the power struggle between Chip and Howie, he demotes Howie in the organization. Chip leaves. Now Howie is back up in the organization. So there's some weird stuff going on. I don't want to know what is happening in Lurie's office. I don't know if there's threesomes going on, foursomes, just gangbangs. It's a weird situation, but, Lurie has a relationship problem. He cannot let go of people, And well, it's quite shocking that he ended up getting rid of Chip because he's very loyal to people and he usually keeps them within the organization if he likes them.
Well, his new Asian wife is actually pretty attractive, so he did a pretty good job there. He is a billionaire, so he has that going for him. And Roseman was kind of his fail-safe because when he demoted him and gave Chip all the power, it had to click. It had to go through his head like, I'm giving all the power to a second-year head coach who has no NFL experience prior to this, And Roseman, yeah, you're right. I don't know what's going on. They must have special peanut butter parties and do God knows what with it. But they have a special relationship, him and Howie. So he kept them in the organization in case it didn't work out with Chip. And like he said, you got to take risks in this business in the NFL and hope they pay off. And this risk blew up in his face with Chip Kelly, but he still kept his little puppy dog Howie down the hall, and Howie's back, and he's not a puppy anymore. So hopefully he puts on his big boy leash and does a good job and has better drafts coming forward and does a good job of the personnel, unlike previous shitty drafts that he's had.
Now I know why Chip Kelly didn't want to go to the holiday parties. I completely get it now. I get it. He just didn't want the chocolate syrup on his tits. That's all. All right, we're ending this show now too much. I mean, this is getting a little graphic here. So we're ending it now. For Mike Owens, Jerry Burton, I'm Adrian Fedke. I have a minion and he's awesome. Go Birds, baby.
Bye.
See ya.